You've spent an entire career fighting fires and rescuing the injured, sick, and dying. But that's all over now. What do you do when the sirens stop, you've hung up your gear, and you walk out of the firehouse for the last time? What do you do with your life when the smoke clears? Welcome back to the When the Smoke Clears podcast. I'm Russ Miles, here with Tony Ben Cosme. Thank you so much for coming back to join us with another person who has finished their career in the fire service and is now living life on the other side and telling the tale of what it's like. And again, we appreciate everybody's support. And before we get into it, unfortunately, it's happened again. Montgomery County Fire and Rescue has lost another firefighter. Mr. Alexander Sylvie unfortunately passed away just a couple of days ago. And we wanted to send our condolences out to his family, to Station 17 on the B shift, and to anybody that knew him or was close to him. Our deepest condolences go out to them. And there's still information that's coming out. But we wanted to let everybody know that if you're struggling with anything, if you are having a hard time with anything, if you are in a bad place and feel like there's no way out, you are not alone. You have people in your corner. You have people who you can talk to. And please reach out. Please just say, I need help. It's okay to not be okay. Yeah. So we would rather spend time talking with you however long it takes than hearing you talked about at your funeral. So please say you need help. You can reach out to Tony or I on the show. Even if you don't know us, you can reach out. But
at the station, I work at 28C. You know how to contact me. My information's there.
Yes. So with that, Tony's going to tell us a little bit more about who we have on today. But even before we do that, if you want to help us and support the show, we have some costs that come with the show. You can donate at buymeacoffee.com/whenthesmokeclears, and you can donate whatever you like. All costs go to help us cover all donations go to cover the costs of running the show. Yes. Nothing goes to Tony and I personally. It all goes to covering the cost of the show.
Yes, it's a labor of love. But just to reiterate what Russ said, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank our guests that came today, and I also want to reach out to everybody out there. Just understand that we got to look out for each other. This once again is another moment that we have to take and reevaluate some of the things that we do, and just be there for each other. And that's all I ask everybody, be there for each other. That's it. So without further ado, let's get to our next guest. This next brother, he was the standard bearer. I mean, he don't think he was, but I remember coming up, he was to me and to a lot of us. This gentleman did a lot in the fire service, 26 years of service, retired as a battalion chief, was an in-service coordinator, training coordinator at the PSTA Training Academy, was the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue accreditation manager, which I'm not 100% sure what 100% that entails, but he's going to break it down to us today. And he was the NIMS coordinator for Montgomery County Services. He was part of the Honor Guard for 10 years, and he was one of the first, speaking of mental health, to be part of the CISM team. So he was one of the guys that was volunteered to take that on several years before it kind of became mainstream, I would say. And without further ado, our next guest, Derrick Anthony. Thanks for coming, brother. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure, and it's an honor to be here. As I told you guys earlier, I've watched some of your work, and what you guys are doing is absolutely fantastic. So it's definitely an honor to be here today. Yes, sir.
No problem, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And also, as I was saying offline, Captain Anthony, or at least he was Captain Anthony when I first had my introduction to him in the academy. He was one of the ones that evaluated us every morning at lineup, and he had the military spit and polish on his shoes. The uniform was looking sharp and was making the sharp turns. And all we wanted to do was hear him say that our platoon was looking good, that our platoon rocked. So I'm glad that you can be on with us today, Chief Anthony. let me not take anything away from you. That's right.
It's okay.
But thank you very much for being with us, sir. We appreciate you.
I'm honored, and thank you for the respect. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So first we love to hear the origin story of our guest. So feel free to tell us where you were born and what life was like for you as a kid coming up.
Sure. It'd be my pleasure. So, well, I'm 60 years old now, and
wow,
couldn't tell.
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah. Hey, man, 60
like
years
fine
old,
wine,
man.
brother.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I grew up in Southeast Washington, in an area called University Terrace, which is not far from Shipley Terrace and Stanton Road and Neal Road and those areas over there. And my mom was a beautician, and she worked at a beauty shop that was up on Alabama Avenue in Southeast as well. And I grew up in a single parent household. I have two older brothers, much older than I am. And life for me at that time was, kid growing up in the inner city in urban Washington, D.C. and Southeast in the late 60s, early 70s. And I never, I guess as most kids growing up do, you aspire to want to be a police officer, a firefighter, and I didn't really have those kinds of dreams, but I do have fond memories of watching DC fire department members riding the back step with 3/4 length boots and the long coats, and in my neighborhood, quite frequently laying hose down the street. So I remember seeing that, as a kid. I attended DC public schools up until the fourth grade, and then from fourth grade till about sixth grade, I attended a private school that was in Georgetown called Holy Trinity. At the time, one of my older brothers was attending school at Georgetown University, and this school was a couple of blocks from where he was staying on campus. And the whole idea was for me to catch the bus up to Holy Trinity, and my big brother could kind of look in on me and check on me while I was there in school. And I used to catch the bus to school, and my mom was single parent, well, a single parent, and she worked hard, and so I was a latchkey kid,
Yeah.
And so that's how it was for me, and living in Southeast Washington, in an urban environment, you see a lot of things, and I saw a lot of things happening in my young life. My mother bought a house, and we moved when I was about 12 years old to Temple Hills, Maryland. And then I transferred schools, and I went to another Catholic school called Holy Family, which is in Hillcrest Heights, Maryland.
Mhm.
And I attended Holy Family for about 2 years. And then I went to St. John's. And I went to St. John's
Military Academy.
Military Academy. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but we have some Montgomery County Fire and Rescue alumni members that attended St. John's as well.
Yes, I do.
Mike Nelson,
Mhm.
Ray Sanchez, the Aquino brothers. I remember the Aquino brothers specifically while I was there. And I attended St. John's for a couple of years, and And then a funny thing happened. I kind of got caught up in my environment, and my whole direction changed. And although I was a relatively good student, I was being directly impacted by my environment, and I found myself traveling down with a lot of young Black males in the urban environments started going through that rite of passage thing. And that rite of passage led me to some pretty dark places. You know what I mean? Just being in the street. And
Right.
I almost lost myself. And if it wasn't for one of my older brothers who helped reel me in, I probably would have become a statistic, you know.
Okay.
But through that time, I was able to finish school and did fairly well. And my goal after high school was to enter the military, and I aspired to go into the Air Force. And I took the ASVAB test and did well on the ASVAB test, and kind of knew what I wanted to do, and went down to MEPS and didn't pass the physical. I had an irregular heartbeat, and I was
Oh,
crushed.
wow.
I was absolutely crushed. And so, I just continued to work after high school. Um, while I was in high school, I, worked in the service industry, and then I became a retail manager, and then my last job before the fire department was working at a law firm as an accounts payable clerk, and I was taking some classes up at the University of the District of Columbia.
UDC. Yeah.
hmm I met my first wife while we were both working at the Department of Interior, and I was working for a contractor there, and she was employed there. And her father was my introduction to the fire service. Her father, Mr. Retired Assistant Chief Alvin Carter. I believe he was retired as an assistant chief. Maybe he was a deputy chief. At that time, he was a lieutenant with the DC Fire Department, and I had lost my job at the law firm, and really had some time to kind of think about what I really, really wanted to do. And he and I talked, and he told me a lot about the fire department. He told me about the DC Fire Department. He told me because at one time he was also assigned to the training academy as well. As a matter of fact, Craig Baker, Chief Craig Baker, was in the training academy, and I believe Craig Baker was a recruit. At the same time, I was a recruit with Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, and when I got off probation, I met Craig Baker, who had just gotten hired with the DC Fire Department, and he knew my father-in-law and spoke very highly of my father-in-law. So anyway, Alvin Carter, Lieutenant Alvin Carter at that time, told me a lot about the fire department, and it spurred my interest. And then at that time, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue was having a job fair, and I told him about it because I was perplexed. I was perplexed at applying to DC Fire or Montgomery County, and he encouraged me to go to Montgomery County Fire. And the reason why was, at that time, DC Fire Department was having a lot of internal strife. As a matter of fact, I believe at that time there was a reverse discrimination lawsuit being filed in the DC Fire Department, and there was just a lot of internal problems happening. And he encouraged me to go to Montgomery County because he said the Montgomery County had more resources, had better training, better facilities, and better equipment. And he said, I think that if you go to Montgomery County, if you get hired, I think you'll have a better opportunity there. So so I applied, and at that time, Montgomery County had under the new legislation had assumed full responsibility of the fire department. As you guys know, I was in recruit class 2, and prior to that, all the individual corporations,
right.
Per the law, were responsible for fire protection in their area, in their respective districts, in addition to hiring their own employees. There, and in 1988,
the county took over.
When the county took over, and I was in recruit class 2, and that's how I entered Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. 1988.
Did you meet? 2. Did you was that the same one as Darren Carter? Darren Carter was in your class?
Darren Carter and Darrell Walker and Cliff Billingsley, Sharon Jarrell. Oh my God, we Scott Graham was in our class. We had a whole host of characters in our class. It was a good class with a lot of great members.
So so you didn't know anything about the fire department until your wife's father was like, listen, man, why don't you go ahead and give this a shot? You in between doing stuff. Is that what it was?
Absolutely knew nothing about the fire department. I'm first generation fire department in my family. Absolutely knew nothing about the fire department until I met her father, who told me a lot about DC Fire Department. As a matter of fact, his brother-in-law was also a DC fireman, Bernard Taylor. God rest his soul. He passed away a few years back. Yeah, I'm first generation fire department, knew nothing about the fire department. Now I tell you, prior to me getting hired with Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, I told you I was working at a law firm as an accounts payable clerk, and I had lost my job there, and I had some time to really think about what I wanted to do. And you're going to find this funny, but I initially wanted to become a paramedic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wanted to be a flight medic.
Okay.
So after talking to Alvin Carter, my goal was to get hired with Montgomery County, go through the training to become a medic, and then transfer over to the state police and become a flight medic. And that was my initial goal. But what changed that for me was after getting hired, of course, you know, the first leg of your training is EMT training. And then I never forget my first day in fire school. We were up on the hill in the burn building, and Greg DeHaven was one of my instructors. It was Greg DeHaven, it was Jerry Warren, and a host of others. And the first burn 1A, where you learn fire behavior, and they used to burn pallets in that burn room, and they threw diesel fuel on that pallet, and I got to watch that fire go up the wall and over my head, and it was like nothing like it.
You were hooked.
I was hooked. I was hooked. It was nothing like it, man. I was sitting in there in full gear, and I was absolutely hooked. There was no coming back from it, champ. I was done. You could poke me with a fork. I knew what I wanted to do. Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yep.
So from there, the thoughts of paramedic just kind of went out the window.
Yeah, that was just a thought. It was just a thought at that point. I kind of really enjoyed the fire training. And my first couple of years in the fire department were very challenging.
So where'd you go as a rookie?
As a rookie, I was assigned to Station 24B. I was on Phil Gercio's shift.
He was an officer there. Okay.
Yes, Phil Gercio was the lieutenant there, and my sergeant was Lou Boozer.
Lou Boozer.
Lou Boozer was my sergeant. And Phil Gercio was my lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to call him Uncle Phil. And even then, Uncle Phil was very, 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 very well versed on hydraulics and water flow. He was really into pumps. Mm-hmm. And that's where I went as a rookie. So my preceptor was Matt Pumphrey.
Matt Pumphrey, rest his soul. Yep.
Yeah, Matt Pumphrey, and I had John Sparks on my shift, and
Union head. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I had John Sparks on my shift, and it was just a great shift. And I had let me see, Bones. The names will come back to me as time goes on, but he was the master firefighter. I had oh my goodness, Doug. Oh my goodness, it'll come back to me.
It's a while ago.
Yeah. But I had some good guys on my shift. Mark Wilson, Bones, and Doug. Oh my God, Doug Finlayson.
Wow, that's a name
Doug
from the past, my friend.
Yeah, they were the two masters. Yeah, and it was a great shift. It was a great shift. I learned a lot. Yep. As a matter of fact, trying to get used to the tones and learning the tones and stuff, all the different battalions and districts at that time. Man, it made my hair fall out.
Yeah, that's the excuse I had too.
I was a nervous wreck trying to anticipating calls and staying up at night and just couldn't sleep because I didn't want to be last getting on a piece of apparatus going out the door. It was just an incredible transition for me. Being in the firehouse and the lifestyle and the traditions of the fire service.
So you went all in. You went all in, all chips in at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just a new way of life for me, completely. Yeah.
How long did you stay there?
I stayed at 24. I came off probation, and after coming off probation, I was transferred to Station 25 on day work. At that time, Station 25 was in a Butler building.
Yeah.
And
on the corner of Connecticut and Georgia.
In Georgia, that's correct.
Uh-huh.
And I was assigned to Station 25 on day work, and I think I stayed there for maybe a year, maybe less than a year. And then from there, I went to 18 on day work. And at that time, I got introduced to Kensington Volunteer Fire Department in all its glory. And there were a lot of members between stations 25, 18, 21, and 5 who were previously corporation firefighters.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my introduction to a little bit about the combination system, and I learned a lot about KVFD and its members, and so anyway, so I did day work at at 18, and then I got my first shift assignment at Station 5. And I was at Station 5B.
2448. That was the first.
Yes, sir.
Because everything was day work coming out, wasn't it, for you?
No, there were some, for me, yes. When I
Yeah.
when I was at 24, I was on shift work. But when
Okay.
I left 24, my other two assignments my next two assignments were day work, and that was at 25 and then at 18. And then my next assignment after that was 5B. And when I was at 5B, I was transferred to 5B, and I worked for Jeff Williamson.
Okay.
Yep.
Jeff
Jeff Williamson.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
That man had a major impact in my development.
He's a good
as-
quality guy, man.
Yeah.
Jeff
Not
Wilson's a good dude.
as a firefighter, but as an employee.
Yeah.
He had a major, as a man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. He had a major impact in me developing into a quality employee and a man working for Jeff Williamson.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, how did he help you develop as a man?
Well, as I was alluding to, my first 3 years in the fire department were tough. They were tough for a number of reasons. One was I was going through a divorce. So my first wife and I had split up. And during that period, there was some alcohol abuse and substance abuse. And I was struggling with those factors, and some of those troubles bled into my professional life as well.
Right.
And I found myself struggling quite a bit my first 2 years in the fire department. And there were a lot of members around me, people like Lou Boozer, Greek, Jim Demopoulos, and others who saw that I was struggling and tried to help me and reached out to me and tried to help me. So those first couple of years were tough. And finally, when I was able to, I'll just say, right the ship a little bit in my life,
Yeah.
then I got involved with another young lady who ended up pregnant, and I ended up having custody of the child.
Oh,
So
wow.
I became a single parent raising a daughter on shift work.
Wow.
And
That's hard. That's very hard. Yeah.
yeah, and it was a tough time for me. I really went through a lot, and there was a period of time where I wasn't sure I wanted to stay in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. Somewhere around my third year, I wasn't sure if I was cut out for the job. I wasn't sure if this job was meant for me at that time. And in raising my daughter, I had to make some hard decisions. At that particular point, I hadn't really finished my education in college to get my degree. And so I had no other options, in raising my daughter. So I talked to some people that were very close to me and decided to stay, but I had to really grow up. I had to first grow up, and this is where Jeff Williamson played a major role. I had to realize that the problem wasn't everybody else, and the problem wasn't Montgomery County Fire and Rescue and all the other things that I was being exposed to. The problem was me. So it was only until I realized that I was the problem did things start to get better. And it was during that period where I also realized that I did not really know my job as well as I should have.
That happens to a lot of people actually around the 5 or 6 year mark. Because you can, I don't want to say you can coast, but you know, you got your probationary package, you do all that stuff. You got people that'll guide you through. And then you can basically, if you're not paying attention, just run calls. And I mean, you're not bad at what you do, but you don't know the job like you should know the job, right?
Right.
And you make that decision. Some people come to that inflection point different times in their lives, you know.
For me, it was my third going into my fourth year.
Right.
When I realized that. So first I had to grow up. It was time to grow up, right? And time to, you know, screw my head on right and get my shit together. And then two, I had to learn my job. And so my attitude changed. And I realized that, look, if I'm going to be here, if I'm going to make this my career, you know, I got to put my head down and really do the damn thing.
Mhm.
And so I'm not comparing my journey to anyone else's journey.
Right.
But for me, my journey required more effort and study on my part. And so that was the path I took. And so I just worked really hard at being the best that I could be, not comparing myself to anyone else.
Mhm.
I just had to be the best that I could be if I was going to be here. I had to be a better employee. I had to be a better firefighter. And I had to grow up and be a man. And those things were my goals at that time. So as you said, Tony, the inflection point for me was like my third or fourth year when I realized some things had to change in my life. So that was my early career, my first couple of years. That was it. And I met some good people along the way. I had some very unique experiences, disciplinary experiences, you know, along in those first 3 years.
It's a crooked ladder, right? A crooked ladder to get you up.
Yeah. I remember there was one incident where I was in an accident. I was driving an ambulance. I think it was myself and Donald Heflin. I believe it was Donald Heflin. I think Donald Heflin at that time was a volunteer at Station 5 when this happened. He and I were, I believe, on an ambulance call. And en route to the call, I made a right turn. The clipboard was on the dashboard. And when I made the right turn, the clipboard slid across the dash, lodged in the wheel of the steering wheel, and I couldn't bring the wheel back. And I crashed into another car.
Oh, no.
And that incident made the safety bulletin. At that time, Roger McGarry was the safety officer, and that incident made the safety bulletin.
No clipboards on the top of the dash. I remember in those old Ford cabs, the old Ford.
So I had some very unique experiences early on. John Sparks was my savior through the early part of my career. John Sparks did a lot to help me through some of these disciplinary actions. John Sparks sacrificed a lot because he saw a lot in me worth sacrificing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good people.
And so I owe a debt of gratitude to John Sparks. John Sparks is a household name in my house. You know, he helped me quite a bit. You know,
and sometimes that's all it takes is having someone to believe in you and that sees that in you to really change things for a person.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was my early career. So am I still chronicling my?
No, you still listen, man. What made you okay? You're at your new stations. You get checked off to drive the wagon. Where'd you get checked off to drive the wagon at 18?
Station 5.
Okay, so you're there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're there with Pumphrey, right? And not Pumphrey.
No, Matt. No, I'm there with Mumford. Kelvin Mumford.
Kelvin Mumford, another
Kelvin Mumford
guy.
He's another mentor in my career. We're still friends. We still communicate today. Kelvin Mumford's like a brother to me. You know, nice. Kelvin Mumford, you know, gave me so much good information not only about the job, but in my personal life.
Right.
Kelvin Mumford was there when I bought my first house. Kelvin
Wow.
Mumford. I mean, yeah. So yeah, I got checked out to drive the engine, I believe, at Station 5.
Okay.
But while I was at 24 and at Station 25, I got checked off the tiller. So I was a tillerman before I became a truck driver. I became a truck driver at Station 5 on Truck 5,
Mm-hmm.
which had a unsynchronized transmission. So you had to learn how to
Stick.
double clutch. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a stick. Yeah, 5-speed unsynchronized transmission. Yeah, yeah. So that's where I got checked off to drive to there. Yep.
When did you think about now that you say that you have a trying time, so it's year maybe what, 8 or 9? Did you decide to take a promotional exam or think you could be in a leadership position? When did
Um,
that into your head?
while I was at Station 5, Jeff Williamson left, and I believe Jeff went to Station 20. He went back to Bethesda.
Mhm.
And then the next officer that came in was Paul McNeil. Paul McNeil from Silver Spring. Paul McNeil came
Paul
in, and
McNeil.
Paul McNeil added another layer to my career, where Jeff Williamson helped me to be a better employee. Paul McNeil introduced me to he helped me to drill down and to be a better fireman. Paul was a fireman.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. You can't question that. Paul McNeil was a fireman, and I would venture to say that Paul was even one of our better command officers as well. I thought he ran an excellent fireground as well. But
Mm-hmm.
as a station officer, Paul McNeil was the one that turned me on to having tools as a firefighter, individual tools, things to help you in safety and survival, and it was those little things that I learned from Paul, like having just little things like door chocks, having door chocks in your pockets, having your own hand tools in your pockets. So that way, if you're on a call where you have to disconnect a piece of equipment or something, you don't have to run back out to the truck. You got it in your pocket. Having webbing, for a hose line or for personal survival, and being, knowing how to use it and apply it in a pinch. Wearing a leather helmet. It was Paul McNeil that got me wearing leather helmets. You know, Paul McNeil was the one that exposed me to those elements of being a firefighter. You know, and it was during that period and that exposure where I prepared myself for my first promotion exam, and I took the Master Firefighters test. I did okay. I made qualified, but I ended up dying on the list.
Mm-hmm.
My first exam.
Okay.
At that time, I then transferred to Station 19, and I was at Station 19B with Jerry Graham, and that was a interesting time for me because being at 19, being in Silver Spring, away from the combination, even though Montgomery County is a combination system, there was more exposure to the volunteer element in Kensington than it was in
Yeah,
Silver Spring.
that's true.
And being in Silver Spring, I felt like I was more part of a professional fire department. and working with Jerry Graham and those members there, what I learned there was crew integrity, taking your assigned position no matter what. And, just crew integrity. That's what I learned from those guys. So there, I spent, I must have spent 3 years there, maybe 4, at Station 19B. And then I tested again for Master Firefighter, and then took the lieutenant's exam, and made well qualified this time.
On both master and lieutenant, or?
Yes, sir. Made well qualified on both.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I got promoted to Master Firefighter, and then I went to Station 29 at Germantown, and I worked. Who was I with at that time? Oh my God, my age is showing. It'll come to me. It'll come to me.
Right.
But I got promoted to Master Firefighter, and I went to Station 29, and I worked with a bunch of great guys there as well, and was just going through the paces of learning my job as a master. I was primarily assigned to the ladder truck.
So you were a truck driver over there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a truck driver.
They had a straight truck there too, right? Didn't they?
Yes, they were. Yeah, they had a rear mount.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah, and when I was at 19, I got checked off on the Suffin tiller truck front end, and I believe the Suffin tower, which was down at 1, and also the tiller truck that was at 19. Then I went up to Germantown, and primarily was assigned to the truck as the truck chauffeur there, although I drove the wagon a couple times.
When did you get involved in the academy? Who put you onto the academy to teach?
Well, when I was at Station 19 as a firefighter, I had a lot of interest in training. I had a lot of admiration for some of the instructors that had influenced me, and I kind of was trying to figure my way out, or figure out my way through the department. I saw that members who were diversifying their careers were doing quite well, so I wanted to diversify my career. So I enjoy training, and so I went through the process of getting my level 2 instructor certification through MCFRS. And then at that time, Moody was assigned to the training academy, and Moody was accepting applications for part-time instructors at the training academy, or adjunct instructors. And Moody had this application process where you had to come and give, I want to say, a 15-minute presentation to him and maybe one other person. And I did that, and I got through. But the problem that I had was, although I had the level 1 and 2 classes, I had to get the interim training hours.
Right.
And I didn't have a sponsor or any way to get the interim training hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Mark Davis, Battalion Chief Mark Davis, who at that time was at the training academy, who picked up the phone and made a phone call and called someone in special programs and hooked me up to get my interim training hours. you
Oh,
know,
wow.
and it was just that simple. He knew he was connected at MIFRE. He knew people at MIFRE, and simply made a phone call to one of the instructors over there, and that's how I was able to get my interim training hours.
Oh, so you got it done at MIFRE.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah, through the special programs section. Yes, sir.
so for
Mhm.
interim training hours, what exactly does that mean?
So I took the instructor 1 and instructor 2 class, but in order to get the state certification, you have to have, and I don't know what the hours are, but you have to have pretty much a shadowing. You're shadowing another instructor, and then you're going to be a lead instructor for a certain number of hours. And so in order to do that, you had to have, at that particular time, you had to have a sponsor either within Montgomery County or in Prince George's County through MIFRE, or one of their educational programs. And again, Mark Davis was able to pick up the phone and make a phone call, got me connected with the special programs. Special programs did industrial training, firefighter training for NGOs and stuff like that. I even did some training for some of the volunteer corporations to get my interim training hours. So
Okay.
that's how I got my hours, and then that allowed me to get my certification, and then that's how I became an adjunct instructor at the training academy as a Fire 3.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
What classes were you teaching or helping out with?
Early on, I was assisting with essentials, so I was earning my bones as an adjunct instructor during essentials. But then I kind of broadened my palette, I guess you could say, a little bit, and I taught pumps and hydraulics. I taught truck company operations and a couple of other classes as well. But I really started to enjoy pumps because pumps was challenging. It was more challenging for me, and um, but essentials. I was an adjunct essentials instructor through and through, and
Gotcha.
I even taught a couple of lead classes, or I was a lead instructor for some of the volunteer classes in essentials as well. So that's how I got connected with the training academy. Yep.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Hmm.
So you're doing this as a Fire 3, and eventually you promote. You're a master up in Germantown,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm.
So you said you spent a lot of your early years in like the Silver Spring area, the Kensington area, and Glenmont area,
Hmm.
and then you promote. Now you're up in Germantown, and back then, I mean, Germantown, I know was more of a country rural-ish type area, and I know it was definitely developing and up and coming. Uh,
Hmm.
but was there a culture difference in terms of working down county for so long, and then now you're working up county? Was there any major difference there?
There was a difference. At that time, Germantown was developing, and Germantown was not rural; it was suburban, but it bordered a lot of rural areas. So we were running calls with a lot of rural companies north of Germantown, and so that was different for me because most of my career I was in the lower portion of the county, which was more metropolitan. So I found myself running more rural calls on the road, running calls with companies like 14, and I was a fish out of water. Really, I was. I mean, some of the runs were long, connecting with other companies. The one thing I will, and then Germantown, we, we lost staffing in the evening because we had day work positions. So we had to cross staff units there as well. There were times, even as a master, I might end up on an ambulance, you know. Um, but yeah, it was different. And the difference being up county is when something was on fire, it was on fire. You know, it was really on fire because of the dispatch times. Well, not the dispatch times, but the run times
Mm-hmm.
to get to the location. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you typically when you ran a fire up county, man, it was on fire. But
Gotcha.
yeah, but it was a good experience for me. It was a learning experience. I ran some real water calls, and that was a good addition or a good exposure for me. Real water calls. And then being down county, I brought the down county ethic with me. Like when you run a 2-on-1, uh, if you're driving a truck, set the truck up. Whether it's a working call or not, set the truck up. Put the outriggers down. Put the stick up. Treat every call like it's a working incident. Just to get the practice in. And that was the down county mentality. Treat every call like it's the big one. So I brought that ethic with me. So if I was driving a truck, even on a 2-on-1, I put my outriggers down. I put my stick up. I get it out the bed. I prepare. So it was good. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And while I was there at 29, I was on the well qualified list for lieutenant, and I got promoted to lieutenant while I was up there.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And where did that take you?
Well, initially, it took me back to 19, which is probably not a very good idea in terms of promoting people, but
Same shift. Same shift.
same shift,
Yeah.
same personnel. So it was tough, but it was during my first. I'll tell you this story. My very first day as a lieutenant, I was detailed to Station 28 for the day, and we were running up and down through Gaithersburg all day long,
Yes, sir.
and went to bed that night. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, they tapped out a working house fire with people trapped. And that fire was on 7211 Millcrest Terrace.
Down. I know exactly where it's at.
Pretty
It's
much right
behind the firehouse.
Yep, behind the firehouse, right behind the firehouse.
Yes, it is.
And I had firefighter Jeff Bennett with me. I had Timothy Anderson with me, and little Joey Fuller. And Joey Fuller was coming in for shift change, and I just told him to hop on the piece. And Jeff Bennett knew exactly where to go. And mind you, this is my first shift as a lieutenant. We get there, heavy smoke showing, and we did everything to the letter. First due, on scene report. I laid dual lines. At that time, we didn't have 4-inch hose.
3-inch lines, yeah.
Yeah, so I laid dual lines down, and we had people trapped. There was a woman out front that had smoke on her face, and she told me that people were in the basement. So I gave the report over the air. I remember Mike Nelson was there, and Mike Nelson took command, and we forced the door, and we went in and took the line downstairs. And unfortunately, there was a family of 4 that perished. It's a mother, a father, and 2 kids. But everybody on that call worked their ass off to try to get those kids and the family out. Everybody did a great job, but unfortunately, the family perished. But that was my first shift as a lieutenant. First shift as a lieutenant.
So with an experience like that, how did that affect your being an officer going forward?
Yeah, going forward.
Well, we met with the county crisis management team several days after that. It made me go home and really cherish my kids. But how it affected me as an officer, it just made me realize that there's a lot of weight on my shoulders as a firefighter, and particularly as an officer. And I'm responsible for the guys that are on the piece. And in some cases, the things that I do and the things that I say as the first arriving unit has an impact on the outcome of the incident. And so that's what I got from that. I just realized that, there wasn't anything that we did wrong as a unit. There was nothing that anybody who was dispatched to that call did wrong, but it just made me realize the impact that we as firefighters can have on the incident and the people involved. So it just got real for me.
Right.
If that makes sense. It just got real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I know when I first promoted to lieutenant, a lot of times those first few shifts, I would be thinking about, okay, if that type of call pops up and it's my turn to be that officer,
Yeah.
like how would I react? Like, am I ready? And I'm just running through everything in my head. And so, I can relate 100% to those feelings that you have about like it being real, for sure.
And if I could add to that too, and that's why training is so important. And I really mean that. You've got to train for what you prepare for. You got to have muscle memory up, and that comes from training, because that incident in particular, it was training that helped us do the right things leading up to the incident. I gave an on-scene report that painted the picture for all the other arriving units. We laid dual lines to set up for water expansion, if we needed it. If this thing, spread laterally to the other, because it was a townhouse fire, and all that came from training. It was just training, dual lines at that particular time was the talk of the day. I believe that during that period, Steve Lohr was I believe Gercio at that time
was the operations
chief. Yeah, I believe he was the operations chief, or maybe it was, I believe Gercio was. But Steve Lohr, even at that particular time, was very involved in water supply, and Gercio too. And so it was all that discussion and all that training that was coming through the department that really just helped make the best decisions leading up to that incident. So training is just so important. It really is.
I think that's so important that you said that, because as we know in this job, there's times where the end result isn't what we want it to be.
Yes.
The family doesn't make it in the fire, or we're doing CPR and we can't get the person back.
Yes.
But if we have done everything that we can do to prepare for that moment, then I mean that at least softens the blow a little bit, because the outcome that happened wasn't a result of us not doing what the public called us to do. We were ready, we were trained, we did all the things we were supposed to do, but just sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Well, yeah, you know, you can do everything right and still things go wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even when you do the right thing, though, there's still an element of empathy and humanness, man, that comes to when a member of the public loses their life, man. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you can still, you know, you could dot all your I's and cross all your T's, but man, when somebody loses their life, even if you've done all the right things, it still has an impact on you. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier, it did have an impact on me when I went home and looked at my kids.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I get it.
So did that make you get involved in SISM? Do you think that was that one of the things that make you one of these many stories, but I mean, to get you involved in the first crisis incident management stuff?
No, I actually got involved in the crisis incident management team when I was a firefighter at Station 19. I was still a firefighter, and I remember being I can't remember what incident it was, but I was on a debriefing for an incident, and I was just impressed with the people, the members of the team that came in and ran the debriefing, and I just wanted to be a part of that. So so I made the calls and asked questions, and then I went and got the training for critical incident stress management. And that's how I became a member of the SISM team at that time. You know, it wasn't because of that incident. It was because I was part of a debriefing, and I can't recall what incident it was, but I was just impressed with the members of the critical incident stress management team that were there. I was impressed with their professionalism. At that time, I can see his name. I mean, I can see this guy. Oh my goodness, I cannot think of his name. But it was just how he ran the debriefing that really captured my interest, and that's when I became a member of the team. I think I stayed a member for maybe 2 or 3 years while I was at 19, and I think that the SISM team took a different direction prior to me getting promoted to lieutenant, and then you know, I didn't participate in any more training after that. But that was what caught my interest. It was being a part of a debriefing as an incident member, and just being impressed with the team members.
All right, so you're a lieutenant. You've had a very active first day. You kind of get your rhythm now. You get your rhythm, you know, your way of doing things. Are you detailed out a lot, or because at that point they didn't have detailed trail for lieutenants. I remember they were stationed you somewhere. So you were stationed somewhere. That was 19. So you wouldn't get detail out of there, would you?
Well, that's not true. I did get detailed. It depends on the staffing, you know.
Right.
If there were staffing shortages, you know, certainly you could get pulled out of the station.
Right.
But as a lieutenant, I was assigned to 3 different locations. When I first got promoted, I went back to 19B, and then I left 19B and I went to 18C, where I worked for Kenny Dobler at 18C. And then I worked there, and then I left 18C and I went to Station 20 and worked again under Jeff Williamson. I was his lieutenant. And all 3 of those assignments were unique in themselves. I learned something different at each one of those assignments. 18, man, it doesn't matter which shift you were on at 18. 18 had firemen on shift A, Bravo, and Charlie. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, 18, those guys were firemen. And when I went back to 18B as a captain, 18A as a captain, those guys were amazing, all of them. You know, I'm getting ahead of myself now.
No, that's all. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, but they were really really good firemen. But I learned something at 19B. I learned more about station management. Station management at 19B because there were some challenges there, and so and I think Russell, you and I had a conversation maybe about a month ago, and I was giving you my perspective as a lieutenant. You know, in today's fire department in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, you know, as a lieutenant, you could be a float lieutenant.
Yeah, you are
a float officer. Yeah,
Yep.
And you're on the road quite a bit. When I got promoted to lieutenant, you could be a float lieutenant or you could be an assigned lieutenant. Luckily for me, I was assigned in all three instances. But if you're an assigned lieutenant, sometimes your development is tied to your development as an assigned lieutenant is tied to your relationship with the captain. Some captains will share station management with you, where some captains might relegate you to just being a unit officer.
Yeah.
Because the captain may want to maintain control of his shift. Now, what does that do for you as an aspiring officer? Well, it doesn't do much for you because you don't get the exposure that you need to grow and develop. But being a float lieutenant puts you in a driver's seat every day. Every day you're being detailed to the station and you're that station officer every day. And so you're being exposed to different station management situations, staffing issues, training issues. Well, let me not say issues, challenges. Let me say challenges. That's the operative word. Staffing challenges, training challenges, having to initiate injury reports, having to initiate accident reports,
personnel issues,
all that station management stuff, and so when you are the boss for the day, you're being exposed to all that, and so that helps your development and your growth, and so I was getting my exposure on both sides of that, some in the station, but some while being on the detail trail as well, but I will say that being assigned at Station 20 with Jeff Williamson was again another inflection point for me, because working for Jeff Williamson, who helped me develop as an employee early in my career, being with Jeff Williamson prepared me to be a captain.
Okay.
Right. There was a conversation, and Jeff Williamson shared station management with me, and there was a conversation that we had in the engine room one day, and we were going over some. Jeff had given me an assignment to do with the shift members, and we were in the engine room talking about it. And then I was telling him that I was thinking about taking the captain's test. And I said, well, I just don't know if I'm ready. And, and he pulled me to the side and he said, Derrick, you're ready. You've got everything you need. But the one thing you're struggling with is your confidence. You've got everything you need. And that broke me down because that's what it was. It was my confidence. It was my confidence because I kept comparing myself to others. And I had to realize that my path is my path. And once I realized that, that was it. My path was my path. My path isn't Russell Miles' path or Tony Ben Cosby's path. My path is Derrick Anthony's path.
Absolutely. That's everybody's deal. Yep.
Yeah. So I had to stop concerning myself with who the competition was and what they were doing. I had to focus on what Derrick Anthony needed to do to be successful.
What they say, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes, sir. And that's what it was. It was stealing my joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Comparison's a thief of joy. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that is wonderful that Jeff Williamson comes back in your life again.
Yep.
He's a major player.
Speak life into you and
yes,
help
he did.
Jeff, if you're listening to this, we want you on the show too, brother.
Oh, he
was my
that.
captain at 13 too.
He absolutely knows that. I've told him that several times over. Yes, sir.
Nice. So
go ahead.
Yeah. So needless to say, you take the captain's test.
Made well qualified.
Made well qualified. There you go. And
well qualified.
So where do you go from there?
My first assignment as captain was Station 11 in Glen Echo.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite unique. Glen Echo is in a bedroom community, very slow, very quiet. And I had worked at busy companies for my entire career. I had worked at busy companies. So going there was different for me. And the personnel there were kind of used to a slower pace.
Mm-hmm.
And I was okay with that, but I felt that it was my responsibility to take advantage of this time that we have not running calls to maybe train and learn our jobs a little better.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought that ethic with me, and I tried to expose my personnel, or the personnel that worked there with me, to maybe some things that or different level of training that maybe they hadn't been exposed to. There was another captain that was there at the time on another shift. That was Dave Polikoff.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Polikoff and I partnered together. And, and then with my exposure in training at the training academy, we were able to acquire a structure in the Glen Echo area. And we did some 1403 training.
Live burns.
Yep, live burns. We rotated some other companies through to do some safety and survival training.
Oh, I remember that. It was right off of not too far from Friendship Heights, actually. I remember where that house was there. I think it was
off of River Road.
Okay.
Yeah, it was off of River Road. But yeah, so we so that was what I tried to do to make do with the time. We definitely slept all night at Glen Echo, so you didn't have to worry about getting up too often.
That wasn't too bad. Let's be honest.
That wasn't a bad thing,
that wasn't a bad thing. Getting home 8 hours.
But my goal was to have some structure. So we had a structured shift, and we PT'd, and we did some training, and we took care of the fire station, so that's kind of where I got my bones as a captain at Station 11. And
how did you get to 18? How did you get to 18? When it was an opportunity, you jumped? Is that what it was?
Well, from Station 11, I went to the training academy. There was a position open as a captain at a training. And I talked to Chief Clemens, who was there at that time, and he encouraged me to put in for it. He was somewhat aware of me because I was an adjunct instructor and I was teaching up there part-time. So he was looking for, a captain to come up and take the position of the in-service training coordinator position. So So I put in for it and I got it. And that was a very unique period for me because it challenged me administratively. I had to get my administrative chops up, but also when I became the in-service training coordinator, not long after that, did the Leisure World fire happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And when the Leisure World fire occurred, that completely changed the course of our department because the Leisure World fire brought forth some introspective uh, review as to our department's strategy and tactics. And from that point, there was a panel that was hired to review the incident. And some of the results that came from that review were that Montgomery County needed to change its safe structural firefighting policy and that we needed to work on strategy and tactics.
Wow.
At that time, Chief Gercio was the operations chief, and me being the in-service training coordinator, training and operations partnered to make that happen throughout the county. And so I was the in-service training coordinator under Chief Clemens. And so I was tasked with helping to roll out the new state structural firefighting policy, but in a way where there was practical application of it. Thus, we started doing the in-service training at the training academy at the burn building, where we were rotating companies up.
I remember that.
Doing with the influx of the new safe structural firefighting policy. And then I started a desktop publishing monthly article that I would send out called In-Service Training Minutes, and I started sending that out. And then from that, then there was so you had the didactic training, which was done up at the Hill with all the companies, and then you had the other training where I would send out training modules to all the stations where there was an in-station training process to happen prior to the firefighters coming up or the units coming up to the training academy. So it was like all this stuff happening, and I was a part of it, and it challenged me. It challenged me administratively, and it gave me an opportunity to be a part of this new thing that was happening in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. And I just enjoyed it. I loved it. It was a great time. It was a great time for me in my career.
And then go ahead, finish.
Oh, and I just remember the captain at Station 29, John Tippett. I worked for John Tippett when I went to Station 29. And it was John Tippett, while I was the captain at the training academy, that blessed me with another opportunity. He saw the in-service training minutes that I was sending out by email to throughout the department. And he provided me with an opportunity to write for Fire Rescue Magazine.
Oh yeah.
And so,
Nice.
so Fire and Rescue Magazine offered me a contract to write 9 monthly articles on officer development.
Oh wow.
So then I wrote 9 articles in Fire Rescue Magazine under officer development, and that was just a great time for me as a captain.
Wonderful.
So what makes you leave there and go to 18? What makes you decide, okay, I need to go make a move?
Well, I did my 2.5 years in at the training academy, and I was chomping at the bit to get back out to operations. And Tony Coleman, I believe, was 18A at that time, and Tony was looking to transfer out.
You went to Fromm's.
To go to Fromm's, and I talked to Tony, and then I talked to Gercio. You know, historically, what had been done was if you had done an administrative assignment, the operations chief would show you favor in picking your next operational assignment. And so I put in for 18, and I was able to get 18A. And 18A was running a lot of fires at that time, and I wanted to be at the station that was running fires. I wanted to go to fires, you know. And man, I went to 18, and oh my goodness, man, Paz was there. Who was my lieutenant? We had Bob Daly was one of my first lieutenants, I believe. Pete Andriello.
Pete.
Dave Kennedy was there. Mark Davis. Mark Davis was the engine chauffeur of all time. He was the absolute best engine chauffeur ever. And I rode the engine, man, and that was my thing. And man, those guys, man, they were just great. And man, when I went there, we went to fires. Oh man, it was like we were competing with 8A, because 8 was going to fires too.
Yeah,
and if it wasn't 8 going to fires, it was 18A going to fires, you know. And man, it was just a great time. And you know, I tried to bring some of my training acumen there to 18A. I don't think they were too appreciative of it, but you know, hey, I hope they I hope they got a little something from it. I mean, you know, I was a guy that was probably a little more regimented than what they were used to, but then where I brought some regimentation to the station, they took me to fires, and it was just a great time. I really enjoyed working with those guys, and you know, it was just a great time. You know, there was one incident where I was off, and there was a significant fire where Paz and
they fell through the floor in Kennedy.
Yeah, and Dave Kennedy. Yeah, they fell through the floor, fell down no, I think it was basement stairs collapse. Yeah, Gary Mann was on the shift too. Yeah, Gary Mann. Yep. So that was a great shift there. So that's how I ended up back at 18.
Nice. Okay. So where does the move to battalion chief come in?
Well, I worked at 18. I think I was there for maybe about 3 years or so, and you know, just was ready to move to the next level, and prepared for the battalion chief's test, and you know, did well, made well qualified. Richie Bowers at that time was the fire chief, and Steve Lohr was the operations chief. Steve Lohr, after, let me see, Kenny Dobler left, Steve Lohr made me the station commander at 18. So I was the station commander for a short period of time before I got promoted to battalion chief. And Richie pulled me off the list first, so I got it first. And and Richie, boy, Richie put a lot of stuff on my plate. But it made me step up. Richie made me Battalion 4, but I was also the / accreditation manager, but I was also / NIMS coordinator. So I was handling 3 jobs at the same time.
So explain to us what accreditation is, man.
So accreditation, there is an organization called the Commission of Fire Accreditation International. And what they do is they have a set of performance measures by which all fire departments seeking accreditation have to expound to pass. And these performance measures encompass every area of an organizational fire department, from training to budget to master planning, EMS, operations, all these different areas. And each one of these areas has a set of performance measures. So when a fire department agency seeks to get accredited, the benefits of it, well, there are a lot of fire departments that feel like, well, we should be functioning at this level anyway, but what accreditation does is it makes a fire department rise to the highest level. And then when you pass accreditation, you raise the bar even higher, And so the benefit of it is, being a part of accredited fire departments and agencies across the nation, seeking and getting further funding at the state level. If you're an accredited agency, that helps you get further funding at the state level, maybe even at the federal level, for your hazmat teams, tactical response teams, things like that. There are some benefits to it, and I know that Montgomery County still is an accredited agency with a certified accreditation officer now.
It is.
Yeah. So anyway, so Richie made me that, and the whole idea was to make me the accreditation officer, not to really focus on Battalion 4, but to be the accreditation officer. But I did all three jobs, and I learned a lot through the accreditation process. One of the things that I learned during that period was that Montgomery County Fire and Rescue was already going through an accreditation process prior to me getting promoted. But Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, their accreditation process was not organized, nor were they doing the things to address the previous accreditation period where Montgomery County Fire and Rescue had gotten cited. And they weren't addressing those things. So for the first several months, I had to first learn about what accreditation was, learn about what my role was as an accreditation manager, and then jump into this process where we were due to become accredited in 3 to 4 months, right? And needless to say, when we hosted the site review team to come and accredit our agency, we failed miserably. We failed miserably because, and I took responsibility for that. I took responsibility because, first of all, Montgomery County was not adequately prepared for accreditation, and as the accreditation manager, I did not prepare us in writing to the performance measures the way they should have been written. And so I took responsibility for that failure. But at that time, after we failed, Chief Lure became the fire chief. And I encouraged, CFAI gave us an option. The option was to either seek accreditation again in 3 years or go through a shorter period within 12 months. And I encouraged Chief Lord to go through the 12-month period and promised him that we would make it through, which we did. And so we were accredited, I want to say, in 2013, and Chief Lord and I traveled to Chicago to receive the award, and everything worked out.
Good.
But that was a very challenging time because I had 3 jobs. And I have to say that the NIMS coordinator job, because I was approaching retirement and accreditation and being the relief battalion chief took up most of my time, I had to figure out the best way to address the job as the NIMS coordinator. So what I did as the NIMS coordinator was to ensure compliance with all of the agencies that were in the emergency operations plan. So, I mean, I could have done a lot more, but I had to do what was comfortable for me at that particular time leading up to my exit. And so it was compliance. So all I did was we had about a handful of chief officers in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue that were certified to teach NIMS 300 and 400 classes.
Yes.
So what I did was I got those guys to teach classes, and I made sure that the agencies in Montgomery County government that were in the emergency operations plan met the requirements as set forth by the law.
How many people have this accreditation, though? I mean, it seems like a lot, you know?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you at this time, but I do know that the bug of accreditation is spreading throughout the country, and more fire departments are seeking to become accredited. I know that after I retired, I was approached by Prince George's County, and now Prince George's County has an accreditation officer, and I believe that they are an accredited agency now as well.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of our regional departments are becoming accredited. It's a big deal.
Okay.
You know, like I said, the biggest thing is making sure that the department buys into accreditation, including all the chief officers. If the chief feels that the department should be accredited, then it's important for all the supporting staff to support the chief's goal towards accreditation. And then, you gotta make everybody understand that this is an important task to achieve. So buy-in is a major thing.
So how'd you like being a battalion chief?
It was okay. I mean, I would not rank myself as one of the best battalion chiefs in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, but I think I did okay as a battalion chief. And I say that because as much as I enjoyed running calls and managing the incident, there's nothing like being first due on an engine company.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just, I
agree.
The only regret that I have in the fire department is not testing for assistant chief. I would have loved to test for assistant chief only because it would have heightened my administrative acumen and provided me with a broader resume, right? And I think I could have really done a good job as an assistant chief. But for me, the best job in the fire service, and this is just Derrick Anthony, the best job in the fire service is being a captain at a station and being on the engine company and being first due. That's it. First due. First due, first line, that's it.
I hear you, brother.
I mean, I think that really is the fire department there. You're there, you're the first ones there, you're tasked to put the fire out.
First due, first line, that's it.
Yeah.
Putting the water on the hot stuff, man. And
hard stuff.
Hey man, that's the job, baby. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I miss a lot of the people that I've worked with. There've been a lot of people that have had a strong influence in my development. I made a lot of great friends in the fire department. People like, people that have had an influence on me, like Mike Lowry, and I'm talking about not even some of the stuff that these guys, how they touched me had nothing to do with the fire department. there was a volunteer member named Earl Eford, and at Station 5, and his wife. Uh, uh, so many people, Greek, Eric Jacobs,
Yeah.
just so many people, had a major influence in my career, with so many friends as well. But man, I just got to tell you, again, I enjoyed being a command officer. It was a great time being a command, but man, my favorite job was being a captain. Being a captain and being first on the fire and pulling that first line, man, is just nothing like it in the world, man.
Yeah.
And that's my memory.
So you're doing that. You're telling us all that, and I agree with you, bro. How did you know it's time to retire? When did you say, okay, this is time to hang it up?
I felt that, with the exception of testing for assistant chief, I felt at that time that my career had peaked. I just felt like I had peaked. I felt that I was at the end of diminishing return in terms of my career in the fire department. And I personally, and this is just me, I personally did not want to be a guy who did 30, 35 years and be jaded. I just didn't want that for myself.
Right.
And, being in administration in public safety, for me, it was just kind of like Groundhog's Day, and I just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like I was at the point of diminishing return where my career was concerned, and I knew that at my age, it wasn't going to be the end of my career. It wasn't going to be the end of work for me, and I just wanted to do something else.
Okay.
So I made the decision to get in the drop, and I finished my education, and I haven't looked back. Since I retired, I've done a number of things. My first job when I retired, I did background investigations for the federal government. I worked for OPM. So I did that for a little while. And then I worked as a deputy fire marshal up at BWI Airport, and I did that for about a year. And I worked for a great command officer from Prince George's County who was there as well. He's retired now. And, I didn't really enjoy that, Needless to say, the state pension and state salary sucked. Right. Then I went on to work for Prince George's County's Commission of Office of Licensed Commissioners. I was the deputy chief of the liquor board.
Oh, wow.
For Prince George's County.
Okay.
And I did that for a while. And so now for the last 5 years, I've been working in private industry. I work for Rapid Finance, which is a commercial lending company, and I am their client services manager. So I'm in finance now. I travel a lot for work. I meet with clients all around the country, and I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good, man. Good.
So
Good.
with all of this now work experience that you have post fire department, what would you say is the biggest thing that you've taken from your fire service career that serves you the best now after fire department?
My time at the training academy, my experience at the training academy exposed me to several different disciplines, which today I have been able to build upon. standing up in front of a crowd and giving presentations, preparing worksheets, working with timetables, fast-paced environments, doing working with doing a SWOT analysis. Yeah, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. You know, all the things that I did in Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, combined with my personal education, has done nothing but help me prepare for life after the fire department in the workplace. Montgomery County and Fire and Rescue gave me a career and a set of basic skills that have done nothing but enhance me professionally, you know, and I'm forever grateful for my career within Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, man. It is, you know, I couldn't have asked for a better career. It was just great, you know. The other thing, strategic planning, you know, strategic planning. It's just been all those things, all the things, and some that I haven't even named have just helped me, help prepare me for life after the fire service, professionally.
That's wonderful.
That's great, man.
As you know, when you were going through the service, mental health, like the focus on mental health was not a thing at all for many years. I think you were unique where you had some time in the CISM space, so I think you were a little more attuned to it than most. So how have you taken care of your own mental health, I guess, while you were in the department and since leaving the department?
Well, when you talk about mental health, I have experience on both sides. First, I suffered from critical mental health issues from the alcohol and substance abuse early in my career, which took me to some very significant lows in my life. And I would venture to say, and then that was a dark time, very dark time in my life. And I would venture to say that there are a number of public safety personnel that are going through similar situations. And if it wasn't for access to good health care and access to health care and access to counseling, I don't know if I would have made it, you know. And at that particular time, you know, you could go into any station in Montgomery County and find a posting on the personnel board about counseling if you're having problems. And I think that it's important for public safety agencies to make that clear, to make that a priority for their personnel. You know, we were speaking earlier, there's a department in a county in Texas that recently suffered 6 suicides in their sheriff's department.
Yeah, you said
within a I want to say it's within a 3 to 4 month period. And some of those personnel members in that sheriff's department were retirees, you know, and you know that requires some deep investigation on their behalf. But again, you know, public safety is unique in itself because of what we are exposed to on a regular basis. And, you know, the strongman mentality, the type A personality that a lot of us bring to the table just doesn't work, man, when you're hurting and suffering from incidents that you're exposed to, not to mention what may be happening in your personal life. And we have a tendency to stuff all those emotions and all those feelings and not deal with them in a healthy manner. And then it comes out in other ways, either through abusive relationships, comes out through substance abuse, alcohol abuse. So when I was on the critical incident stress management team, the incidents that we were called upon were sometimes line of duty deaths or suicides, and the whole idea was to give members of the department a safe place to talk about how they felt, to begin the process of healing. We couldn't heal them all there, but it was to start the process of talking about your feelings and how you're dealing with the emotions of whatever you've been exposed to. And I think it's important that starts with leadership. And leadership needs to impress upon its members that it's okay to talk about how you feel, and there's a place where you can go and provide a place and a safe space to talk about those things, because in public safety, again, we are a unique bunch that are exposed to some very horrific things on a regular basis. And we might give each other a high five at the end of the day when we've completed, and done our job. But, if we're pushing and harboring feelings about what we just saw, I just share one incident with you. When I was at Station 5 as a firefighter, I got dispatched on a code. It was an infant code. And of course, we were, pardon the expression, balls to the wall out the door for this infant code. Well, I was first on the scene, and when I walked in the door, it wasn't a code. It was a DOA, and it was an infant. And it affected me because I had an infant daughter, and it affected me, So to answer your question, mental and emotional health is important for all of us in any occupation, but more importantly in the space of public safety, because of the kinds of things that we are exposed to on a regular basis. And leadership has to emphasize the importance of talking about how we feel, providing resources to those people exposed to those kinds of traumatic incidents, and creating a safe place for them to begin the process of healing.
Sounds good, man. Sounds real good. That being said, you now retired, been retired for a little bit. Every day when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself, who's the man looking back at you from the mirror?
I've been blessed, man. Who I see is Derrick Anthony. I don't see Chief Anthony. I don't see Captain Anthony. I'm Derrick Anthony. And Derrick Anthony is at a place in his life where he realizes I'm 60 years old and just discovering who I am. Just discovering what my interests are, what my strengths are, and just being okay with who I am.
Yes, your own skin. Yep.
Yeah, being okay in my own skin. Thank you. Perfect expression. Being okay in my own skin. I don't have the kind of pressures that I put on myself when I was in public safety. It wasn't external pressure. It was the pressure that I put on myself. And I don't have those kind of pressures anymore. So to answer your question, who do I see? I see Derrick Anthony. Derrick Anthony. That's who I see when I get up in the morning, when I look in the mirror.
Great.
That's who I see. And I'm okay with who I am.
Cool.
And I really
Good.
am. I'm okay with who I am.
All right.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. No question about that.
So if people wanted to get in touch with you outside of this, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Well, sure. They can hit me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. You can send me an email. You can call me. You're welcome to publish my number if you want. For those that may seek to get in touch with me, I'm available. I'd love to talk to any host of past members, man, and chop it up and see how people are doing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great,
Yeah.
man. Just real quick, I say this to I don't know if anybody said this to you, but thank you. Thank you for the time you served. Thank you for giving your time. Thank you for serving the public for all these years. All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate you, man. Job well done, brother. Job
I
well done.
appreciate you guys too, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. And so don't sign off just yet. We'll talk a little bit afterwards. But Chief Derrick Anthony, thank you so very much for sitting down with us and talking to us. It's been a pleasure.
Man, the pleasure's all mine. It's been a blast.
Take care, brother. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the When the Smoke Clears podcast. Be sure to check out our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Just search for the When the Smoke Clears podcast. Feel free to email us at whenthesmokeclears8@gmail.com. That's whenthesmokeclears and the number 8@gmail.com. You can also support the show by going to the website buymeacoffee.com/whenthesmokeclears and donating however much you'd like.